welcome everyone to our panel. This is the What If TWD-style. We're going to talk about Maggie Rhee and what I feel is a possible villain arc for her. Something a little bit different, but it was something that I thought was worth exploring, especially given her actions in the last 2 seasons. Before we start, my name is Hanukkah Ricks. I am the creator and host of the Phantom Hybrid Podcast. We are a pop culture podcast. We discuss fantasy and genre TV and films, and we also review different fan conventions that we go to. We talk about those things. And the Walking Dead universe is one of the, one of the things that we cover. I'm going to let my co-panelists introduce themselves. We started with you last night, so we're going to start with you.
Let's go with last night. I'm Michelle Lickens, and a true fan of The Walking Dead from the beginning. And like I said last night, took a little break during the Saviors. I had to take a break. And then crammed the rest of the seasons in a month. And I did, someone mentioned missing work. Like, I did miss a couple of days of work to catch up, and actually went on a vacation, and I was on the plane, I was on the bus, I was even on the cruise before you set sail, when I was getting the last of the internet to catch up. So that's how I was trying to get all my seasons in before the season finale. So, that's me.
I am Casey Frierson. I have been a fan of The Walking Dead since season 2. I didn't start in the beginning. But Hanukkah had already had her podcast, and I would guest on her podcast for anything The Walking Dead. And then I became a part of the podcast in May of last year.
So, needed someone to talk about Walking Dead with because my other 2 podcast partners don't watch it. So we got Casey, and then we took Anthony's wife and grabbed her, and so now that's what we do. But so first of all, before we get started on this panel, has anyone seen the teaser trailer that they released about 2 hours ago for Dead City?
No.
Really good.
Yeah.
Is it a new one from the one they released this morning?
It's a they released it this morning.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I can't believe you didn't tell me about this.
So yes, if you guys haven't seen it yet, go look at it. It's interesting, and it starts out from the beginning explaining one of the main questions that everyone has about this series, which is why in the hell would Maggie and Negan be teaming up for something? Apparently Herschel gets kidnapped, and Negan is the quote-unquote only person who can help her get him back, which kind of lends to, I think, a lot of people's theories that we're going to see old Negan in some form or fashion, because we probably are going to need him to deal with whatever element has, kidnapped him from Maggie. So, well, I mean, Maggie, okay, let's talk about Maggie. So one of the things that caused me to do this panel or come up with this idea is because we, as fans, we've followed Maggie's story from the beginning, from the time that we saw her on the ranch, all the way up through the end of the series, and we've seen the trials and tribulations that she has gone through. We've seen the suffering that she has gone through because of Negan, and how the repercussions from that kind of, how it kind of, how it kind of, shows what decisions she makes when she's dealing with certain things. And the more I look at it, the more I feel like a lot of the things that Maggie has done, especially in the last couple of seasons, if you look at it from a different character's point of view, or if you look at it comparing it to a different character, and in this instance I'm thinking Negan because that is the big major person that has affected her life the most, you see that a lot of her actions don't really differ much from what he did. Maybe the intent behind it is different, but some of the things are kind of sort of the same. But I think because we all know Maggie's character, we all love Maggie's character, and we understand her character, we kind of turn a blind eye to it and don't think that, oh yeah, you know what, she's actually doing villain type stuff. So I just kind of wanted to explore that a little bit and just kind of get some feedback from people, because that's not something that people talk about a lot, The only thing I do want to say is if you contribute to the conversation, we just ask that you keep your comments respectful, that you respect other people's opinions, even if it's something that you don't agree with. Because this is a Maggie panel, we will be bringing up Negan quite a bit, and I know that people's opinions on him kind of has this big spectrum. So again, we just want to keep the conversation fun, insightful, but we want to be respectful as well. This is not a panel where we're just going to do all the talking. We would love to hear your comments and, see if you agree or disagree with anything that we say, and if so, why. Let's just have a fun exploration of this character. So, when we are introduced to Maggie's character on the farm, she is a typical late teen, early 20s, person. She is very devoted to her family, very devoted to her father, her younger sister, and you see her as this character that is inherently good in this, in this world where evil has started to take reign, and you have these walking dead things that are, kind of threatening everything. And through the course of the show, you start to see Maggie's personality change a little bit. I first noticed it in rewatching certain episodes for this panel, when she is taken hostage by the governor, and that whole little interaction with him, when she and Glenn are able to kind of try to escape. Maggie has her first human kill in that scene, and she does it without hesitation. Granted, she is, she's doing it in self-defense, but still maybe not ease with which she kills someone, but she does it, and it's almost like she doesn't think about it, and you don't really see it affect her later on. That was just one of those things where I was like, okay, does she have the propensity for being a killer? And then as you see through the seasons, you see she starts to hesitate less and less with human kills, to the point where she gets to Hilltop and they're negotiating with Gregory, and she tells him, yeah, so we will kill Negan and his people for you, and in exchange we want half of everything that you have. And that was like the light bulb moment. I was like, wait, isn't that what Negan is doing? And at this point, we discussed this last night in our Negan panel. At this point, Negan's people, the saviors, really didn't know Rick's group. Like, they weren't really on his radar. Some of his people had come across Daryl and Abraham and Sasha and had to deal with that, but that was an isolated incident. So it's kind of like if they had strayed from this path, if they had decided not to go and attack Negan's outpost and do all this other stuff, would things have been different between the two groups? And again, she's saying no.
Negan was coming regardless.
That is true, but
He had to stay on lock.
yeah, I do agree with that. He would have come for Alexander eventually, but it's one of those things where it's like, would they have been prepared for him because they knew to expect him, and he didn't know what to expect with them? Like, would it have been more of that, or would it have been the way that it was? Negan was kind of dominating everyone for a long time, and because of what happened at the outpost, you came in, you killed all our people, and now you have to pay. I just always wonder if that would have, a little bit of a different, outcome. But I want to hear some other opinions and y'all's opinions. Like, when you think of Maggie, you think of her arc from the beginning of the series when we meet her to where she ended in season 11. She was very clearly a different person. She was a more ruthless person, I think, in some aspects. She was one of those people that was willing to get the job done to save her people, no matter what the cost, which sounds a little familiar, like the governor, like Negan, So I just want to know what you guys think, because I think when I pitched this idea to them, they were like, wait, what?
So let's take a look at the difference between a villain and a hero.
Oh, Michelle's a teacher, by the way.
So the difference between a villain and a hero is they both suffer some type of pain in their past. It's how they react to that pain. So with the villain, they want to burn the world down, and the hero wants to save the world from being burned. Okay, so let's look at Maggie. All right. So happy-go-lucky, like you said, innocent girl on the farm, except she was chasing Glenn. But we won't talk about that. And just her path, everything was going the way it was supposed to. She will end up being a hero. However, that pain is deep, especially when it ended with Glenn. And then you see, changes from there. When we get to season 10, she's almost like a completely different person. And I don't know if they meant to do that because she went away and she saw some horrible things. And they talked about the women in the house situation. So at this point, I don't think she really cares who dies as long as her and Herschel are okay and she gets to her end point. To the point where you gotta help me with the name. When they're on the train, underground, Gage. And like the past Maggie would have did everything she could to save him. And she's like, hell no, he'll be alright. I mean, we don't need this fire, we need to get away. But that is someone she actually knows, and she didn't even put up a fight. Negan don't even know people, he's like, I don't even care as long as I get what I want. So who's worse? The person who actually would give up someone they have a relationship with, or who they don't have a relationship with?
Well, I mean, good.
Gage, the same person that was trying to kill Lydia for no reason.
Yes, that's
Okay.
And then,
I'm just saying that she knows him.
She knows him, and I don't think at that point when Gage was doing all that stuff to Lydia, Maggie wasn't in the picture. She was still gone at that point. So I don't even think that part was in her brain, but it was just the fact that you already know that we're at home and we're suffering, we're starving, and because you get scared, you take off with all of our supplies, and then you come back like, oh, I'm in trouble, save me. I hate to say this, and this is one of the things I always say, The Walking Dead, I feel like kind of desensitizes us to certain things, because I was like, oh no, he needs to die. He needs to die. Why are you gonna open the door and endanger the rest? I think she made the right decision, but it was weird in that instance because you see her saying, no, don't open the door, whereas Negan, up to that point, was being a little more understanding. It's like you see a role reversal in a sense. And I think season 10 and 11 was supposed to show us that. And I don't know if they were trying to show us that, okay, this is the way Maggie could have gone and could still go. But I feel like they kind of...
Right, because old Maggie would have tried to save him no matter what.
I was mad that I feel bad for him.
Yeah,
I don't respect him at all. And I was like, you made your bed laying multiple times.
It was still horrible. However, I wouldn't travel with Maggie.
But instead of old Maggie and new Maggie, it's just Maggie before she was a mom and Maggie after she was a mom. Like I feel like once you're a mom, like that's your kin. You get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So like, because I don't know if there's necessarily a new Maggie. I just think she's a mom now. So she's not just sacrificing herself anymore. It's also if she's sacrificing herself for other people, she's got to prioritize her kid.
In addition to that, that's the last piece of Glenn she has.
Yeah.
Right.
Because all the other parents just leave their kids with the babysitter.
Right.
We're not even... That's a whole different thing.
But I hear what you're saying. She's a little,
like, like what constitutes new Maggie? Because I feel like she's a mom now. And she wasn't, like back when she was making a lot of those sacrifices for strangers, she wasn't a mom.
And then I think it's just an evolution. You're a grown-up Maggie, you're a mom, and then excuse my French, the world is shit, and like, is it worth saving everyone? Just Herschel, that's it.
Okay, I'm gonna say this. Maggie will never be a villain to me. Like how Negan is a villain. Maggie is one of the best. I feel like she has the most humanity because, 11 years in the post-apocalyptic world will do a number on you. And I feel like Maggie has had the hardest apocalypse out of anybody else. Like, she's lost all of the mutual friends like Sasha and everybody loved, but at the same time, she had to watch her daddy get his head cut off. She had to watch her husband be beat to death while she was sick and pregnant. She thought her sister was dead, found out her sister was alive, then come to find out she died right then and like, she has had, to me, the worst apocalypse that you could have. I mean, like Michonne lost a baby, but then it's like, so I feel like Maggie has had the worst apocalypse. So for her to even have the humanity that she still got, she got more than I ever have. Cause I wouldn't have time for nobody.
And that's why
At all.
she's good, cause she's right there on the line where she can go either
She's
way.
definitely more cold blooded. She don't give people
Great.
that inch no more to even give them a chance to take them out. She don't give
Although she
them.
ain't killed Negan yet, so.
You should have been at the panel last night. The whole-
If I would've known it was gonna be this, I would've came. I went to sleep last night.
Oh,
I did. I would've
yeah,
came.
it was interesting. But I mean, and I get what you're saying, I do understand that, but I think one of the things that we talked about with the Negan panel last night, it was basically, you know, we were trying to explore whether or not Negan earned his redemption arc in the series.
To
based
some he
on-
did, but not to her.
Right, and I mean, and even that's debatable because she does acknowledge the fact that he has changed, that he is not the same person that he was, but she can't let go, that one little, that one thing that you did.
He'd been long dead long ago.
Yeah, but you know what, if you think about the repercussions or the consequences, like if she had killed him, would he have been around to save Herschel?
Right.
When Herschel got caught by, you know, the Commonwealth's people. So it's kind of like one of those things where it's cause and effect, or it's choose your own adventure. Like, okay, if I save him here, what would have happened to all of this down the line? Or if I had killed him here, would any of this stuff have happened? Or yeah, especially with the Whisperers, if she had killed Negan,
Yeah.
they would have been wiped out because they did not know how to handle the Whisperers. They needed someone like Negan to get in there and infiltrate because they would not have been able to do it. They had too much humanity, I think, especially for Maggie. I think the thing with Maggie is when we're looking at all of the other villains, we always are introduced to them at the time that they're already a villain. And then we learn their backstory later, and you get to see like what it was that took them from this person to that person. We all agree Negan was an asshole pre-apocalypse. You know, he was a shitty husband. He was not that great a person, but I don't think he was an evil person back then. There were a series of events that happened that turned him into the person where he was like, okay, if I have to be violent in order for you to understand what works and what doesn't, you know, talking about the biker people, then this is what I have to do. And then I think somewhere along the line, when he fell into this group with the Saviors, he ended up challenging the leader because the leader was mistreating the people. That was originally why he stepped up to try to challenge them and took over. And I think the power that he got from that corrupted him, as most power always does. And I feel like, I won't say that Maggie is hungry for power. I don't think any of them were hungry for power in that sense. I don't think Negan was either. But if you look at even when Maggie is in the Hilltop has a clear established leader. Gregory was also a shitty leader. He was also a shitty person. He was not a great leader. But he did the things that he did to keep his people safe, which were questionable, you know? When she comes in and she starts implementing better ways and the people start saying, hey, we would rather follow you than follow Gregory, you can't tell me there's not a little bit of Maggie that was like, oh yeah, okay, I can do this. Because that's what she ends up doing. She literally ousts Gregory from his position even while he's still there. And her influence begins to grow. Now, I'm not gonna say that she got swallowed up by that power and that she got big-headed like Negan did, or, you know, she didn't have a God complex, but there was a little bit of her that once they gave her that power and they were like, oh, we will follow you instead of following Gregory, she did sit up a little bit straighter. People started to take notice. Rick even told her, hey, so after all of this, I'm gonna be following you. You know, it became noticeable. But if it had been something different, or if the people had been a little bit different, I think she could have easily gone God complex, like, oh, okay, well, yeah, well, I'm the one that's in charge, what I say goes, and that's kind of how it starts, and then it snowballs. You know, I'm not saying I think she's a villainous character, I'm saying she has the inclination, she has the tendencies, and I think if you look at the promos for the new show, you see that this is obviously a darker Maggie that we're dealing with. And now that we've seen the trailer, we know her son has been taking all cards off the table. So I have a feeling we're gonna see probably a more, maybe not cruel, but a more dangerous Maggie than we've seen. But if you saw the way she dealt with the Reaper, you already know it's in her. It's just a matter of whether or not she's gonna become that full-fledged villain by trying to do the right thing, which, again, Negan started out that way. The governor started out that way. He was trying to keep his people safe. He looked at Rick's group as a threat, and then he went total bananas. So they don't all start out as villains. They start out having good intentions, and it just kind of snowballs out of control. And I feel like if Maggie continues on the path that we've seen her continue on, she could go that route. Especially the fact that she's teaming up with Negan. That's not something that she's doing out of necessity. But if Negan being who he is can help her get her son back, and he has to revert back to the old Negan in order to do that.
And he'll do that, and he'll do that to help her to get on the
Yeah,
side.
because he's
He'll do
still
whatever he
trying
has
to
do.
make up for
Yes, he will.
what he's done. He's gonna always be doing that, but I kind of feel like that might bleed into Maggie a little bit and maybe influence her a little bit, whether she wants it to or not.
And whether he wants to be that person again or not, he's just gonna make him.
Hand up, yeah.
Okay.
Even though he's trying to be a better person.
Well, okay, so I'm going back to Gage.
She said I wasn't done.
Listen, so there's like, of course, a lot of discourse about like Maggie's decision with Gage, and I just want to bring up, I think Maggie made the right decision because when they did get in, they were trapped. If Daryl didn't show up at the last second with
You're
the
right.
supplies that Gage dropped, they would have all died. Daryl saved them in that moment. So if she took that chance to save Gage, who was like, pardon my language, a total little shithead, and like wouldn't have saved them if he was the one to make the choice.
Yeah.
They would have all died just to save him.
Yeah.
And Daryl is the one who came in and saved them.
I think the
So-
thing that got me with the Gage thing, yes, I feel like he deserved it, but this was just after the scene where Maggie described finding the women in the house and how she says she is a cold person now, like she feels nothing.
Yeah.
And to actually see that on her face when this was happening, I was just like, yeah, that's a cold bitch right
Okay, so
there.
and that's that line, she take her in towards the
Yeah.
middle.
I
Yeah.
think what Negan had just done to her too, she was showing him that she was that cold person. She was like, you're next. Yeah. Push my button.
Yeah, what was your comment?
I was gonna say, y'all remember Savagery? But even Sago. The thing with, I'm mad I wasn't here last night, cause I would've
I mean, I am too
been
now
cut
that I
up
think
in here
about it,
about
I'm like,
me.
man, I think
So,
so last night.
I love Jeffrey, and that kinda skews me a little bit, but I literally hate everything Negan has done, so
Oh, I
every
love
time
the
they
hate.
be talking shit to Negan, cussing him out, I be like, yes, do it for Glenn, cause 701 they ain't never hurt me harder than that in any Walking Dead episode ever, so Glenn for life. The thing with Negan, okay, your wife had cancer, first of all, you was a piece of shit ass husband, okay. Your wife had cancer, you got to spend all of that time with her, she didn't want you to leave, you went to go leave to go find some more medicine. She took all her pills and killed herself, and you was so hurt, okay, there's your villain arc, so. All it took was for your wife to kill yourself for you to be that person, meanwhile.
No. What made him that person was the fact that he was held hostage by the biker people
Right,
And
like
he
he
missed
when,
it, yeah.
and he missed her. I think
I
that
think
was
she
the
was gonna
thing.
kill herself anyway. She begged him for days, do not leave me, do not leave me, do not leave me, and he left.
But he
And
really
she
was
killed herself.
us.
So, that's, and she was gonna die anyway, so to go through that and you're a villain, I'm like, okay, like I can see it. Meanwhile, Maggie has been through trauma after trauma after trauma after trauma after trauma after trauma after trauma. And she still got some kind of humanity. I'd be like, Negan, please shut up. Like, let her treat you however she wanna treat you. Like, please, sir, be quiet. I feel like the only way he could really pay for killing Glenn is if he died saving her son. Cause
Yeah,
life gonna pay for
yeah,
another life.
Yeah.
I feel like that's the only way he could
And he probably
balance
would
it out.
have.
And she'd probably still be like, yeah, fuck you. So, yeah.
That's gonna be.
I was just gonna, I don't wanna go back to Gage, but I was just gonna say, I just find it interesting because right before the whole thing with Gage goes down, Negan's about to leave her outside.
Mhm.
And everybody's like, oh my god, you monster, and then she gets it to Gage, and the only person who's like, Maggie, what the hell, is Alden. I just thought that was interesting.
Ex-savior. You
Yes.
be a savior.
Yeah,
The only
and
savior
somebody
was
that
Alden.
she like when she captured him, she was like, "Oh no, you're one of them. You're gonna die." And he was like, "Look, some of us were there because we had no choice. Like even from the beginning, you could tell Alden was not like the savior."
He was like Simon.
Right, and I will say this too, and we talked about this too. Even some of the saviors, like yes, Negan was this person who led these people, but even some of the saviors acted outside of Negan's influence. Like Negan had a certain code for certain things. There are certain things you don't do. When it came to groups, he was like, we don't kill everybody. People are a resource. He was big for saying that. You kill one person to make your point, and then everything else falls into place. And then you have his people acting in his name, going and killing the men and children in Oceanside, or going to kill all of the scavengers. Those were things that Negan would not have approved. You know, and that's why I'm like, he still has a little bit of humanity in him, but he, in his own words, I had to become a monster because that's what the world needed at the time, you know. And I think there are certain people who saw a little bit of that humanity in him.
And Maggie gonna say the same thing at the end of this series.
I mean, again, that's how I do feel like she is like, okay, here's the other thing, and I am gonna get your opinion. So here's the other thing. The whole arc with the Reapers. Pope spent so much time and effort and people
All of these people.
to find Maggie, to track her down, to kill him, and we never found out what it was. Like, why was he so focused on her?
And I waited and waited and waited after.
But we don't
every
know that it was
episode.
nothing.
No, I rewatched it multiple times. She didn't do nothing to them. They
No,
literally
but-
showed up.
Did she kill
and
the people when she left town?
But see, that's the
She
thing.
killed
We don't
everybody.
know because
She's not sharing that much.
none of that,
She was
like, we
killing
don't know what
everybody
Maggie
on the
was
way
up to
It
in
was
the
more
6
like-
years
the
that she
Pope,
was
like,
gone.
I would wait like episode after episode after episode. I feel like the Reapers was wasted time on Walking Dead.
It was because they didn't give us a backstory. But even when she,
coming back and you gonna get a backstory.
And
Yeah,
I
but
wanted
even
him to
when
give me
she
a
comes
reason
across
why
that
did he
first
want her
one.
so bad. And
Yeah,
he
exactly.
He was just like y'all took her house and y'all mad because she trying to take her
Yeah.
house back.
but I feel like
But she
there's
did
more to
something
the
before she left
story.
there.
She
Yeah,
had
she
to
did.
have, because
She did.
the guy that blew himself up, when he was like,
Yeah.
oh, he's coming for you.
Mark,
Like,
yeah.
how would he even know Maggie?
Yeah.
Because she was out on the run when they took over Meridian.
They don't have no pictures.
So, I feel like there had to be some other kind of story between them. We know that Maggie has been in other communities during the time she was away from our people. We know that she was with Georgie, you know, exploring other communities. But she also talked about the fact that she was around communities when they fell. So I'm like, okay, so did the Reapers have something to do with that? And is that why he was so gung-ho? Why she was so gung-ho? Like, it was just, that whole storyline, yes, I feel like the way that they resolved it was a waste.
Yeah.
But also that storyline showed us a little bit of what Maggie could become. When she turns around after she tells Leah and her people to leave, and then she turns around and just walks, boom, boom, boom. I was like, whoa, and the way Negan was looking at her, he was like, yep, I know what this is like. I remember this process, and he has said it to her several times. Let me do this when it came to trying to kill Pamela Milton. Let me do this because if you do this, you don't come back and you have to come back. He's speaking that from experience, and he sees, oh, she's on this path. And it's so weird to me that nobody else will look at that and say, oh yeah, Maggie could easily be a villain. They're like, no, she deserves to do all this because of her trauma. Yes, I understand she has her trauma. She has a right to feel it and to process it. But that also means that she has the potential.
I feel like the day Maggie is a villain will be the day where she's like Negan, killing people and celebrating and fuck you and suck my dick, and I'm literally celebrating and having a party, killing people. Like Negan literally had all of his people treating him like God. They knelt when he walked in. They didn't have no names. They had numbers. So like, that's more like textbook villain to me. Maggie is definitely cold-hearted, but I don't think she on the villain side yet. I
I
don't think
think-
she over there, but she definitely cold blooded.
I think the difference, and when we talked about this, about Negan and Rick, I think what would be the difference to keep Maggie from jumping over that villain edge, Maggie has people around her who tell her what she needs to hear, good or bad, and she listens to them. She respects them and loves them enough to listen to them. If she were to start going on this God complex, Daryl would, well, I don't know about Daryl, because Daryl, Maggie was like, okay, I need you to leave Rick away so I can go kill Negan. Daryl's like, bet I'll do it. But you do.
Daryl got tortured.
And I believe they would not tell her, depending on what it is, because they'll be like, it's Maggie. You know, she's smart. She's a great leader.
But she
wasn't
had,
towards the end.
she had people like Michonne. Like when she went to
Yeah,
go
but-
kill Negan, Michonne was like, this is
But everyone is spread out,
Like
and
she
now
has
she doesn't
to.
have those people.
well,
But then remember when Maggie in Hilltop heard Jesus and girl were in the room and she was upset about them not killing Negan and she was like, Michonne and Rick have to pay.
yeah,
That's villain era to Negan.
Right,
You know
it's
what
your
I'm saying?
family. In the back, I'm
No,
sorry.
you don't do that.
So first of all, I agree with you that Maggie could be a villain. Like, I will preface with that because, first of all, anybody can be a hero or a villain depending on the perspective of how you're looking at it. Because, like what you're saying, I have a tattoo that deals with Glenn and Herschel and the whole thing. So like, I fucking hate Negan. But at the end of the day, he is someone's hero. Like whether he's not,
He
he's not
is very
our hero
redeeming.
necessarily, but the difference to me is Negan will kill people just because. Like I think he would get rid of somebody because they were an inconvenience to him.
He threw the doctor in the fire because he thought he let Sherry out.
Right, but my thing is the reason I raised my hand is because you said something about she just went to go shoot the 3 people with Leah, and that was because of Elijah. She didn't initially go like, yeah, I'm gonna eliminate these people because they're inconvenience to me. It was because Elijah was like, how are you gonna let them walk away? So like everything that I think Maggie does, the difference between her and Negan or her and a governor is that I think she does it out of love and they do it out of hatred and necessity. Like I feel like every time she kills I don't know any time she's killed somebody where it wasn't to protect like her family.
But let's go back to Negan again. If you think about it, he did the same thing. Like, for him, you came in and you killed dozens of his people. And like Maggie said to him, she was like, you killed families. And he was like, the people that you guys killed, that was someone's son, someone's brother, someone's boyfriend. It's a matter of perspective.
Right, well, what I'm talking more so like again what she's talking about, like throwing people in fires or like just limiting people because they aren't on par with him. Like I don't see the difference to me is I don't see Maggie just killing somebody to
For
kill
fun.
I think part of the reason he killed the doctor, if I remember correctly,
Yeah, but
I think he thought the doctor was messing around with Sherry. I think that was part of
Right.
it.
And see, his killing is more of you not following the rules.
Mhm.
Instead of getting a ticket and going to jail, you get thrown in fire and you die.
Because like he
Face
says,
melting,
the
So
rules
his
keep
is
us
more of
alive.
you have to, because that's what the world needs. Everyone that has rules, we have to go by those rules, because if we don't, it'll be chaos. So I don't think he just kills to kill. It's like they broke.
His rules.
Now, May, I can see her just killing someone out of hatred instead of it being, okay, they did something to our community.
I don't know if I can see
Negan would be dead then.
because Negan would be dead if she killed just out of hatred.
I said she could.
if she was capable
If something happened to her, so she do it. I'm just saying.
Oh, yeah.
But if she was
They all
capable
burn.
of that, then why didn't she kill Negan from the get-go? She can shoot. You know what I'm saying? Like there's not a single person that she hates more than Negan.
But remember, she went to go kill him, and then she saw how sad and pitiful he looked, and she was like, "You
Yeah.
just sit there."
Right, but
He
that's what I'm
wanted
saying.
to
Like,
die.
I think that Maggie has a bigger moral compass, which is what keeps her from
Yes,
being.
I do agree.
Do you know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? And then like he even tells her in the last season, I can't think of her name, the rich lady who was leading
Pamela
Commonwealth.
Wilson.
Yeah, literally, like he tells her, they were gonna shoot her down, and then they didn't, and he's just like, well, that's worse than death. Like he's been in that situation, So like what you said about her being a listener, I agree. I think she does listen, but I just think that Negan just like villains don't have that sense of morality, and the morality is what keeps her.
Well, that goes back to what I'm saying. What I was saying about the support system. Maggie has people who will tell her no. Negan never had that. Like everybody around him was a yes man, and the people who were doing things because they didn't agree with him, they did it behind his back. Simon was a prime example. If Simon had gone to Negan and been like, hey, you know, I think you need to do such and such, which I know he tried to do, but he wasn't assertive with it. It was more like a lazy suggestion. But for him to go, Negan specifically told you, just kill one so the rest of them fall into place. That's what we're doing. And then you go and you literally kill everyone but one. You did the complete opposite of what he said. You know, it's like if you disagree with him that much, bring it to him. You know, we do see that Negan does listen to people. He can listen. He can contemplate between different choices. Sometimes he may not make the right choice, but you have to be willing to give that choice. Same with the governor. The governor had nobody who was telling him no.
Right. You also look at it too. If you think about like mental health, like Maggie's been through a lot of trauma and she's been through a lot of loss. But like, I would argue that I think Negan suffers from some type of mental health.
Correct.
If you
He's a narcissist.
That's statistically, like, so like, you know, like again, not trying to, but like, he's just the type of person that he is more inclined to be less more than like the way that she was pre-apocalypse.
Yeah, and I think if you look at the Here's Negan episode and you look at him and Lucille's dynamic before we realized he was cheating on her and stuff, she was kind of shitty to him too. You know, all he wanted to do was like go. I mean, he was a teacher. He worked hard. He just wanted a leather jacket, and she went off on him about the leather jacket. And it's like when you look.
He got fired. He got fired because they didn't have money. He bought.
They got fired at that time. I think he bought it before then. I'm not sure. I don't remember. But the other thing too is like the way that when you look at what happened after the apocalypse started, like Lucille came outside and killed a walker, no hesitation. He couldn't do it. And she told him, she was like, at some point you're gonna have to learn how to do this. And it's like if you look at that, you see that Negan wasn't that type of person back then. Like, yeah, he was probably crummy, he was a cheater, but unfortunately most men are. That doesn't necessarily make him an evil person. I think
See, this is why we could have the Negan debate forever, because he definitely is a villain, but he's one of our only villains that has redeeming qualities. Like Beta had absolutely, he had -10 redeeming qualities. Like he had none. It was you die and
Alpha 2.
So he's one of the wolves, no redeeming qualities. The governor, he killed all of his people because they were scared to go into the prison. Sir, them was civilians, sir.
Right.
So like, and another thing people gotta remember too is Maggie was gone for years. Negan was in jail. In her mind, he's gonna suffer and live out the rest of his life in jail. Imagine coming home and the nigga that beat your husband to death outside picking tomatoes and talking to people.
Right.
She was like, what's been going on here? So that was a shock. So Maggie needs to forgive Negan. I'll be like, nah, I love Jeffrey, and that kind of skewed me with Negan a little bit, but I'll be like, y'all need to leave Maggie alone because she ain't been home that long. So that really shocked her to come home to see Negan. And then Michonne gone, Rick gone. She like, what's going on?
But I'm sorry, that's what happens when you stop checking your letters for 6 years because you want to go and forget everything. You have to understand that some things are going to change, but also when you talk.
Negan is not a true alpha personality. He's more of a follower. He just happened to be pushed into.
And don't forget, Negan
Now
literally.
now he's following Maggie.
And Negan told her he would do it all over again. He has no
No, but
forgiveness.
this time I killed
And
everybody.
Maggie knows
But this
he
time I
was-
killed everybody.
Yes,
Well,
he
if
would.
you're protecting people, I was like doing this side of the fence. When you are responsible for a group and you look at everything that happened, saviors died. There were some innocent people in there who was just growing tomatoes and
Making
teaching the
bread.
children,
And
making
not
the
only
bread.
that, you
And
go
this
in
other
and you
group
kill
over
them while
here,
they're sleeping.
right?
These
wait a minute, Aaron's daughter, where's her parents?
That was an accident.
That was like, so,
Rick was sick when he realized
Right.
what he did.
So later, when he's thinking about it, he's like, it would have been great if I killed you all because I would still have my group. I want to say family. Group.
Because you know he knew the people, they didn't have names half of them.
No, but he wasn't responsible for someone.
They were
You know, it's like the president, they don't know our names, we just social security numbers, okay? But they gotta protect us, and that's what that's what Negan did.
But these
then-
was the same people that had Glenn's beat up head in the wall as they trophy.
But of course, Rick's people didn't know that before then, before they walked in and started killing folks.
Man, they
So, I mean, it depends on
No,
which
they-
side you look at it.
No, they knew they were the bad guys. They just thought that those were the only ones because they knew that because those were the people that were dealing with the hilltop, and that's why they made the deal because they didn't know that Negan had a whole government.
Would it be a difference? I think we talked about this last night. Would it have been the difference if Glenn was on a run and they went to that outpost and there was a shootout and he died that way?
For
How would Maggie? Yeah, Maggie and Negan. How would that be?
it wouldn't be like it is now.
Right.
Because she was literally like sick, pregnant. They was trying to get away from him all day, and he pulled out all the stops so they could know who they was fucking with.
Yeah.
So yeah,
But
But
that's
you're
kind of
trying
what
to prove a
happens.
point.
Yeah, that's what happens when you come into my house and you kill all my people
But-
while they're sleeping. Like, some
But
of
he,
these.
he tortured his own people. And he also kept the women as sex slaves. And if they tried to escape, he would torture their family members in front of them as public display.
the blonde girl and her boyfriend. I don't know her name, but that was them.
Amber,
And
yeah,
Dwight.
see,
And, yeah.
that's something we did not get a chance to get into because I do look when going back and rewatching that episode and looking at the reactions of the different wives and then also thinking about all the things that Negan has said as far as his codes and things you don't do. I don't think that was the case. I really don't. Negan was
Do you want to be
very.
a slave or do you want to marry me? I think you're hot.
No. There were some questionable parts about it. Yes, I will admit that. But I think there are certain things like if you look at with Sherry's was a transactional thing because she was like, okay, yeah, so we kind of stole some stuff from you
Dwight made me
and we
sick.
did this and okay, if we come back, okay, I'll do this if you keep him alive because she knew he was gonna die. Like you stole medicine. You took somebody who had already.
And they was running away like back and forth. And
Yeah.
you see Sherry had told Dwight, she had told Daryl, she was like, because remember Daryl told them they was going to regret what they doing. And she told Daryl, she was like, I do regret it. They should have just went with Daryl, but yeah, that's all.
That's a whole other story.
The one thing I will give Negan is he didn't tolerate rape at all. Because Sasha is one of my all-time favorite characters. And when Davy, whatever the hell Ricky Davy name was, when he was about to rape Sasha, I was so sick. And when Negan put that big ass knife through his neck, I was like, praise the Lord.
Which
Right. But see, the other
That
thing
was,
is,
that was like his only rule. You listen to me and you don't rape. That was
but
literally
see, that's the other thing as far as with his wives, because even when he's talking to that whole situation with Amber, what happened was Amber snuck out to go be with her ex-boyfriend, and he told her, he said, the first thing he says, now Amber, baby, you know that I don't want anyone here that does not want to be here. If you want to leave, you can leave and go back and be with him, but what is the one rule? I can't cheat on you. You can't cheat on me.
He's a master manipulator.
He is.
To
That
them,
he
couldn't
is.
manipulate me, but
He
he did
is.
them
He is. But there are certain aspects of that is questionable because when he walks into that room, Amber is the only one who is visibly stressed, and it's because she already knew that she did something that he wouldn't like. The other one, you had the black chick on the couch, she was reading, she looked at him, and she kept on reading like she was not bothered. There were certain women there who I felt like were there because they wanted to be there. And everyone makes it seem like he just, like he did this with all of them, and I don't think that was the case.
Maybe
That's
not
my
all
hope.
of- They definitely want to be there to get something out of it, but
And
it's
some of
still
them
a choice that they're making.
It is,
Not
and
all
that's
of them.
not all of them.
Some of them were definitely coerced.
Yeah.
You don't. You can leave if you want to, but
Then you're gonna
if
get
you
punished
do
for it.
something wrong, I'm gonna burn your, brother's face off in front of everyone, and you're gonna be punished. And then, okay, I'll
But
stay here.
again,
and
that goes back to him having rules. If
coercion.
I don't think it's coercion. If before you get into disagreement with him, he lays it out. Okay, if you agree, if you're gonna be in this relationship, or if you're gonna be in this transaction, whatever it is. I mean, because we can argue all day about how marriage was supposed to be a transactional relationship as well. So, but if you establish the rules, okay, so if you're gonna be one of my wives, this is the behavior I'm expecting. If you don't do this, or if you do this, or if you don't follow the rules, these are what the punishments are. It wasn't just with his relationships with the women. This is what he expected from everyone. These are the rules. This is how we stay alive. This is how we stay safe. This is how we flourish. And when you break those rules, you have your punishments.
What about Maggie?
I was
When
about to get to this.
Maggie faking her death because he said widows like that are so empty, but not for long.
And I hate Father Gabriel. I fucking hate love Seth, hate Father Gabriel. And Negan is so fucking horrible. He literally came to Hilltop to come get Maggie so she could be one of his wives, fresh off of Glenn Death. Who else in Walking Dead?
That was
fresh off
that
of
one
Glenn
was
Death.
going to be undeniable.
That one
that
would
was
have been
good.
undeniable, yes. But what I'm saying is, when people talk about the subject of Negan's wives, they make it seem like he's just assaulting all of them. He forced all of them. And again, if you go back and really look at the scene, that wasn't the case.
I mean, Jeffrey looked good. So
Jeffrey told them straight up that he would not film, where he had to try and force himself on women. He wouldn't.
Right, but
Which is
also
why it's not
he
that
has
way.
said it before. Even if you like, that's not the way the character was written. Like, he specifically says stuff like, rape is not a thing. He specifically says that for a reason. So why would it be that he would say this? And one thing you have to admit about Negan is a man of his word. He don't say shit that he don't mean, and he doesn't do shit that he hasn't told you. If he says he's gonna do something, he's gonna do it. If he says he's not gonna do something, he's not gonna do it. Go through all of his scenes, go through everything about him from start to finish. You will never see an instance where he said he was gonna do something or not do something and did the opposite.
And it's hard too, because with Negan, most of the people don't want to work with Negan. He came and took over the community, and it's like, oh, I guess I gotta work for him now. So it's not like people was coming to Negan like, take care of us, please. I'm gonna be your wife, and these are your rules. And okay, so like most people, it wasn't like that. I don't know how many communities Negan ran, but it was Oceanside. They didn't ask for that. We know the Hilltop ain't asked for that. The Kingdom ain't asked for that. I like the way King Ezekiel kept it away from his people. Alexandria, we called a stray. So nobody really signed up to be under Negan's reign. He just know how to take control. And people do like to follow somebody, but nobody signed up for that.
Yeah.
Most people didn't sign up.
You don't
Now,
be
some of it was
wandering
crazy.
around with walkers. You want to be in a safe community, as safe as it can be. I said you don't want to just be out there in the world. You want to be in the community. Well, not like whispers. I won't want to
That's
join
what I
that
thought you
community.
were talking about.
No. But you know you're not a person who can survive. I mean, that's your only choice is to be
Exactly, it's hard.
in that situation.
But going back to Maggie, what we were talking about with the Reapers, again, I feel like, and I don't, they're talking about doing more Walking Dead content. I really need to see the backstory of what Maggie was doing those 6 years, because for Pope, and we talked about this on our podcast, for Pope to be so singularly focused
Hell-bent.
on Maggie, not on the other people, on her specifically, to the point you continue to send your people out after her. And when your people are showing up dead, obviously this bitch got some help. Why do you keep sending people out? Your family, the people who God told you to look after, why do you keep sending them out over this person? And then when the one person calls you out on it, he was like, I'll send every one of them until they kill her. Like, what did Maggie do?
I asked that every episode of Reapers.
And we probably will find out in Dead City, because there's going to be an episode where her and Negan is, in a,
over a
like
campfire.
like it start, right? Eating some beans, ramen, and she's gonna talk about her experience and how it's gonna relate to something he did when he was in charge of the Saviors.
It would make the story better.
We're gonna get some of that information because they're gonna tie it together. I
Because Maggie
believe.
was away from us just a little bit longer than she was with us.
Right.
Just a little
Yeah.
bit. So she was gone for, that was Herschel was in a stroller,
Mm-hmm.
and he came back a whole little boy. So
Mhm.
I want to see what happens.
It was but I agree with you guys that he was like awkwardly obsessed with targeting her, but like, what if it was just because she was the leader? Like,
But how, I
he
guess
got
my
her for a
question would be,
reason.
how would he have known that? Because she was out on a run when they came and attacked Meridian. So how would he have even known that? I feel like,
well, because they hide in the shadows. That's the whole concept of Reaper. At least kind of how I took it was that because again, like she said, like they attack before you even know they're there. So like it could have just been an observation that they made, and then like every time that they have an interaction, she's always the one that's like killing people. You know what I mean? Like I don't know that like they have like a backstory or not.
Well, I wouldn't be sending all my people out after her.
They
but
were-
that she said done something specific.
Right.
They were
Like,
trained
bias.
professionals though, like the
Right.
Navy SEALs of the Army. That wasn't a random ragtag group that he was sending to go get her.
Right.
So
And they're
That's
all
what I'm
right.
saying,
You
like,
might send people
yeah.
to
Cause
let
like
them die.
they could have been like really silent and observant.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? And again, like I understand that they were attacked on a run, but that doesn't mean that he didn't have his people scouts and out before. Do you know what I mean? Like kind of like how like the Whisperers knew so much about Alexandria because they watched them. Do you know what I mean? Like it could have just been like an observational thing, and he's like, oh, I gotta take care of her because she's the ringleader, and without her, everything just falls apart.
but I
It
guess for
seems
me,
more personal than that.
it does seem more personal than that, because even if you look at it in that sense that they, you know, that there was no history, she was with a group of people when Meridian was attacked. So why not say go after all of them? He was very specific about her. When the Navy SEAL that blew himself up,
Pope marked you.
yeah, Pope marked you. That's very specific. That's very personal, especially with the way, like, singular focus that he had about going after her. I just feel like there was more to that story, and it really pissed me off that they killed him in the way that they killed him, and we got no answer
And it's
for.
because that happened really suddenly. Like you
And
knew
I
it
know-
was coming, but like it was just kind of like, oh, alright. Like,
And I think part of the reason of that was the fact that they decided to end the show the way that they did, because from what I've read, all of the cast was taken by surprise. Like no one was expecting it to end. They thought that they would get at least one more season, which could have made sense. They could have explored that story a little more. But yeah, that just felt so personal, and it makes me think like, okay, Maggie has already told us how she stopped feeling, how she had to disconnect and all this stuff. I'm like, what did you do to this person? Like, did they attack you and you singularly killed someone? I mean, because you gotta admit, when Maggie came back and saved the day from the Whisperers, Maggie got skills now. She was not that great of a, she was a good fighter before. She wasn't that great. Her aim was not that, like, she improved. What was it that made her improve? Like,
Another 7 years.
but I mean,
And it was just her and her son for a long time, so
Yeah,
she had to be on point.
yeah.
It's even fighters, girl.
And that's why I feel like they will have that conversation, and she will talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, I'm sorry. The conversation got away from us. So how do you feel about the whole Maggie might be a villain type thing?
I just feel like, again, perspective, because had we had this story from a different way, she could already be the villain. You know what I mean? Yeah, we met her like in her very, very beginning, but if somebody else, aside from the survivors, was told this story, Maggie could be a villain in our group, the same way other people are in other people's group, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I still think that once Glenn died, that was her turning point, and for her, the gloves kind of did come off. Herschel is the only thing that kind of keeps her reined in, because she don't want anything to happen to him. Because again, like she said, When you're a mom, you're like, oh, I'm gonna do anything for my kid. So that's probably the only thing that is keeping her from going full villain. But if something happens to Herschel, then
It's
I think
over.
at that
Gotta raise
point,
him right.
it's
Gotta teach
over,
him
and
right.
she's
It's
just
over.
She might kill herself.
probably the worst.
Mhm.
I don't think
I
she
don't think she would do that, but I do see
She will
her
burn the
already.
world.
Yes.
Yeah.
She
She'll
will
burn
burn
the
the
world.
world.
She'll burn the world.
If something happens to him, she'll scorch the earth.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel so, like this group who has kidnapped him in this trailer,
Ooh.
Oh, yeah.
Wait, what'd you say?
this group that has kidnapped him in
Oh,
this
yeah,
trailer.
I didn't watch
Oh,
the
yeah,
trailer.
hell's
Oh.
coming.
Yeah, I mean,
I
literally,
figured that would be the only way she would go to New York.
that's
Would be
what we were
fuck
trying,
somebody
yeah.
took her baby.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's just one of those things where I'm like, I feel
It's gonna be
sorry
good.
for these people, because for her to go to Negan and say, they have kidnapped my son. Well,
Did she
you
came
hear
to
you hear the voiceover,
I gotta watch
and you
it.
kind of see the images, and she says, you know, he kidnapped my son, and you are the only way,
You're
you are
the key.
you're the only way to get him back, or something like that. I was like, oh, she's asking old Negan to make a reappearance,
Right.
because
And
she's
that
about
nigga don't wanna come back.
she's
He
about to
will.
clown, and she needs somebody who knows.
See,
who
she
she
knows
knows.
Michonne to come back. She the queen of checking people. We
I
need
swear
her
to
to
God.
come back.
I'm with you.
Yeah, we need her to come back. She not Rick out, girl.
She not Rick out, but the other thing
For
too,
him.
Michonne, yeah, but Michonne is not gonna kill people out of cold blood.
No, I'm talking about, I need her to come back to check people, cause she
Oh.
was the queen of checking people.
Yeah,
They don't be
but,
listening to Carol. Carol be telling them what's right though, but they listen when they supposed to.
yeah,
Because Carol would go off.
That's my husband.
yeah. But, we have four minutes, so, yeah.
Yeah.
It went by
You
fast.
can watch them
Does anybody have any final, comments?
When's the next,
Oh man, I ain't coming on this.
Next panel.
Unfortunately, this is our last Walking Dead panel, but Anthony and I will be doing a panel in C110 at 7:30. It's going to be about Father Knows Worse. So we are going to talk about fandom fathers, the bad fathers, and how their lack of, what do you want to say? How their lack of goodness affects their children for good or bad. So. We'll talk
Just from
about-
various
we're-
fandoms?
Yeah,
Oh,
various
okay.
fandoms. We might throw some Bruce Wayne in there. We're gonna talk about Homelander. We're gonna talk about John Winchester. So, be different.
What's y'all's podcast?
It's the Phantom Hybrid podcast, and I have cards. I can give you that information. But thank you guys so much for coming to the panel. I have enjoyed this discussion with you.
And I want to thank the young lady in the back because she had a great idea. We talk about fathers, we need to talk about mothers in The Walking Dead.
Michonne.
Everybody needs.
Well, because all the mothers just leave the kids at the house with random babysitters.
You know what
Except for
Michonne
Maggie.
couldn't even leave her